Amsterdam's story begins long before it became a global city of canals, culture, and commerce. Its origins lie in a modest and practical response to geography, water, and survival. The area where Amsterdam now stands was once a marshy, flood-prone region shaped by rivers, tides, and the unpredictable forces of the North Sea. Understanding the founding of Amsterdam requires looking at how early settlers adapted to this challenging environment and gradually transformed a small fishing settlement into a growing medieval town. In the early Middle Ages, much of the Western Netherlands consisted of wetlands and peat bogs. The Amstel River flowed through this low-lying land, connecting inland regions to the IJ, a large body of water linked to the Zuiderzee, now the IJsselmeer. While the river offered opportunities for fishing and transportation, it also posed serious risks. Storms and high tides frequently caused flooding, threatening homes, crops, and livelihoods. For the people living along the Amstel, controlling water was not a luxury, it was a necessity. Around the late 12th century, settlers constructed a dam across the Amstel River near its mouth to protect the surrounding land from flooding and to regulate water levels. This dam became the defining feature of the settlement. The area around it grew into a small community of fishermen, traders, and craftsmen who relied on the river for food and trade. The name Amsterdam literally means dam on the Amstel, reflecting how central this structure was to the town's identity and survival. The dam did more than provide safety, it created opportunity. By controlling the river, settlers made the surrounding land more stable for housing and farming. Boats traveling along the Amstel were forced to stop at the dam, turning the settlement into a natural meeting and trading point. Fishermen sold their catch, merchants exchanged goods, and travelers rested before continuing their journeys. Over time, this steady flow of activity encouraged permanent settlement and economic growth. The earliest written reference to Amsterdam dates back to 1275, when Count Floris V of Holland granted the inhabitants toll privileges. This document exempted local merchants from paying tolls while traveling through the Count's territory, giving them a significant economic advantage. Although Amsterdam was still small, this privilege helped stimulate trade and attract new residents. It also marked the settlement's growing importance within the region. By the early 13th century, Amsterdam had begun to develop the basic features of a medieval town. Wooden houses clustered near the dam and along the riverbanks. Simple docks allowed boats to load and unload goods. Fishing remained the primary occupation, especially herring fishing, which would later become a major source of wealth for the Dutch. In addition to fish, early trade included grain, timber, and everyday goods transported between inland villages and coastal markets. Religion also played a role in shaping early Amsterdam. As the settlement grew, a church was built, reinforcing its status as a permanent community rather than a temporary outpost. The church served not only as a place of worship, but also as a social center where residents gathered, shared news, and strengthened communal ties. This sense of community was vital in a harsh environment where cooperation was essential for survival. Life in early Amsterdam was far from easy. Floods remained a constant threat, fires were common in wooden buildings, and disease spread quickly in crowded conditions. Yet the people of Amsterdam developed a reputation for resilience and adaptability. They learned to build dikes, canals, and drainage systems, laying the foundation for the advanced water management techniques that would later define Dutch engineering. These early efforts reflected a mindset that would shape Amsterdam's future. Rather than retreat from nature, its people worked to control and coexist with it. By the end of the 13th century, Amsterdam was no longer just a fishing village. It had become a small but growing trading town with regional significance. Its strategic location between inland Europe and the North Sea positioned it perfectly for expansion. While it would take several more centuries for Amsterdam to rise to global prominence, the foundations had already been laid, physically, economically, and culturally. The origins of Amsterdam tell a story of humble beginnings driven by necessity, ingenuity, and cooperation. From a simple dam built to tame the Amstel River emerged a community that understood the value of trade, infrastructure, and collective effort. This early chapter in Amsterdam's history set the tone for everything that followed, proving that even the world's greatest cities often begin with small, practical solutions to everyday problems. The Dutch Golden Age. Amsterdam's rise in the 17th century. The 17th century marked the most transformative period in Amsterdam's history, known as the Dutch Golden Age. During this era, Amsterdam rose from a regional trading city to one of the most powerful and influential cities in the world. Wealth, innovation, art, and global trade reshaped the city's identity, leaving a legacy that still defines Amsterdam today. This period was not just about riches, it was about the creation of systems, institutions, and cultural values that made Amsterdam a global center of commerce and ideas. At the beginning of the 17th century, the Dutch Republic had recently gained independence from Spanish rule after a long and costly struggle. Freedom from foreign control allowed the Dutch to develop their own political and economic systems. Amsterdam, strategically located with access to the North Sea and European trade routes, quickly emerged as the Republic's commercial heart. Merchants, investors, and skilled workers from across Europe flocked to the city, drawn by opportunity and relative freedom. One of the most important drivers of Amsterdam's success was maritime trade. Dutch ships traveled across the globe, connecting Europe to Asia, Africa, and the Americas. The founding of the Dutch East India Company, or VOC, in 1602 was a turning point. As the world's first multinational corporation, the VOC established trade routes to India, Indonesia, China, and Japan, bringing spices, silk, tea, and porcelain to Europe. Amsterdam became the VOC's headquarters, and the wealth generated by this trade poured directly into the city. Trade required infrastructure, and Amsterdam responded with remarkable ambition. The city expanded rapidly, most famously through the construction of its iconic canal belt. These canals were not only beautiful, but highly practical, allowing goods to be transported efficiently throughout the city. Warehouses lined the waterways, storing grain, spices, and luxury goods. The canal system also reflected careful urban planning, symbolizing order, prosperity, and control, key values of the Dutch Golden Age. Amsterdam also became the financial capital of the world. In 1609, the Bank of Amsterdam was established, providing a stable currency and secure banking services that boosted trust in trade.
The city's stock exchange allowed investors to buy and sell shares in companies like the VOC, introducing modern financial practices that are still used today. This financial innovation attracted international merchants and made Amsterdam a center of global capital flow. Religious tolerance played a crucial role in the city's growth. While much of Europe was divided by religious conflict, Amsterdam adopted relatively open policies toward different faiths. Jews, Protestants, Catholics, and other religious minorities were allowed to live and work in the city, even if full equality was not always granted. This tolerance encouraged skilled artisans, scholars, and merchants, many fleeing persecution elsewhere, to settle in Amsterdam, strengthening its economic life and cultural experience. The wealth of the Golden Age fueled an extraordinary cultural and artistic flowering. Amsterdam became home to some of the greatest artists in history, including Rembrandt van Rijn. His paintings, portraits, and biblical scenes captured the spirit of the age, reflecting both material success and deep human emotion. Art was no longer reserved only for the church or royalty. Wealthy merchants commissioned works for their homes, creating a vibrant art market and making culture accessible to a broader segment of society. Science and learning also thrived. Amsterdam's printers and publishers produced books that circulated across Europe, spreading new ideas in philosophy, science, and politics. The city became a safe haven for thinkers whose works were censored elsewhere. This intellectual freedom helped establish Amsterdam as a center of knowledge and innovation, reinforcing its reputation as a progressive city. However, the Dutch Golden Age was not without its darker side. Much of Amsterdam's wealth depended on colonial expansion, exploitation, and the transatlantic slave trade. Dutch involvement in slavery and colonial rule caused immense suffering, particularly in Africa and the Americas. While these realities were often ignored at the time, they are now an essential part of understanding the full history of the Golden Age. By the late 17th century, Amsterdam stood at the peak of its power. It was one of the richest cities in the world, a leader in trade, finance, art, and ideas. The foundations laid during this period shaped the city's future for centuries to come. The Dutch Golden Age transformed Amsterdam into a global city, one whose influence reached far beyond its canals and whose legacy continues to shape its identity today.
Amsterdam's cultural and artistic legacy is one of the most defining aspects of its history. Beyond its economic power and political influence, the city became a beacon of creativity, intellectual freedom, and human expression. From the 17th century onward, Amsterdam nurtured an environment where art, culture, and ideas could flourish. This legacy not only shaped Dutch identity, but also left a lasting mark on world culture. The roots of Amsterdam's artistic prominence lie in the Dutch Golden Age, when wealth from trade created a new class of patrons. Unlike many European cities where art was commissioned mainly by royalty or the church, Amsterdam's art market was driven by merchants, craftsmen, and middle-class citizens. This shift changed the nature of art itself. Paintings began to reflect everyday life, homes, markets, landscapes, and ordinary people, making art more personal and relatable. At the heart of this cultural explosion was Rembrandt van Rijn, one of the greatest painters in history. Living and working in Amsterdam for much of his career, Rembrandt revolutionized portraiture and storytelling through his masterful use of light and shadow. His works captured not only physical appearance, but deep emotional and psychological complexity. Paintings such as The Night Watch reflected Amsterdam's civic pride while also pushing artistic boundaries. Rembrandt's influence extended far beyond his lifetime, shaping generations of artists across Europe. Another key figure associated with Amsterdam's cultural environment was Johannes Vermeer. Although Vermeer lived primarily in Delft, his work was part of the same artistic movement that flourished in and around Amsterdam. His quiet, intimate scenes of domestic life mirrored the values of Dutch society: discipline, reflection, and balance. Together, artists like Rembrandt and Vermeer helped define a distinctly Dutch artistic style that emphasized realism, light, and everyday human experience. Amsterdam's cultural legacy was not limited to painting. The city became a major center for publishing and printing. In an era when censorship was common across Europe, Amsterdam offered relative freedom of expression. Publishers printed books that were banned elsewhere, including works of philosophy, science, and political thought. Thinkers such as René Descartes lived and worked in the Dutch Republic, drawn by its intellectual openness. This made Amsterdam a vital hub for the spread of Enlightenment ideas. Religious tolerance played a significant role in shaping the city's cultural richness. While not entirely free from discrimination, Amsterdam allowed diverse religious communities to coexist. Jewish communities, including Sephardic Jews fleeing persecution in Spain and Portugal, settled in the city and contributed significantly to its cultural, economic, and intellectual life. Synagogues, schools, and cultural institutions emerged, adding new dimensions to Amsterdam's identity. Architecture also became a powerful cultural expression. During the Golden Age, Amsterdam developed a distinctive architectural style characterized by narrow canal houses with ornate gables. These buildings reflected both practicality and pride, designed to maximize space while showcasing wealth and taste. Public buildings, such as town halls and civic institutions, were constructed to symbolize order, stability, and prosperity. Today, these structures form the iconic cityscape that defines Amsterdam worldwide. As centuries passed, Amsterdam continued to evolve as a cultural capital. In the 19th and 20th centuries, the city became home to major museums that preserved and celebrated its artistic heritage. The Rijksmuseum, Van Gogh Museum, and Stedelijk Museum house masterpieces that attract millions of visitors each year. Vincent van Gogh, though not fully appreciated during his lifetime, became one of the most influential artists in history, and Amsterdam now serves as a global center for understanding his work. Modern Amsterdam has also embraced contemporary culture. The city is known for its music, film, design, and street art scenes. It has long been associated with progressive values, creativity, and experimentation. This openness has allowed new forms of expression to thrive, from avant-garde art movements to innovative digital design and media. Amsterdam's cultural and artistic legacy is ultimately a story of freedom, freedom to create, to think, and to express. The city's willingness to support artists, welcome diverse communities, and protect intellectual exchange shaped a unique cultural environment. From Golden Age masterpieces to modern creative industries, Amsterdam's artistic spirit remains alive, continuing to inspire the world and reaffirming the city's place as a global center of culture and creativity.
War, occupation, and recovery. Amsterdam in the 20th century. The 20th century was one of the most painful yet defining periods in Amsterdam's history.
While the city entered the century as a prosperous European capital, it soon faced the devastating impact of global conflict, occupation, and loss. World War II, in particular, left deep scars on Amsterdam's population, culture, and moral memory. The city's experience during war and its remarkable post-war recovery reshaped its identity and continues to influence how Amsterdam understands freedom, tolerance, and responsibility today. Before World War II, Amsterdam was a vibrant and diverse city. It was home to a large Jewish community that had lived in the Netherlands for centuries, contributing significantly to the city's economic, cultural, and intellectual life. Amsterdam's reputation for tolerance and openness made it a place where different communities coexisted, and the city enjoyed relative stability during the early decades of the century. This stability was shattered in May 1940, when Nazi Germany invaded the Netherlands. Despite Dutch neutrality, the country was quickly overwhelmed, and Amsterdam fell under German occupation. The occupation marked the beginning of a dark chapter in the city's history. Nazi authorities imposed strict controls, censorship, and discriminatory laws, fundamentally changing daily life. Fear, uncertainty, and repression became part of everyday existence. The Jewish population of Amsterdam suffered the most severe persecution. Anti-Jewish measures were introduced step by step, beginning with exclusion from public life and employment, followed by forced registration, segregation, and deportation. Thousands of Jewish families were torn apart as people were sent to concentration and extermination camps. One of the most powerful symbols of this tragedy is Anne Frank, a young Jewish girl who went into hiding in Amsterdam and later died in a concentration camp. Her diary, written in a secret annex along the Prinsengracht Canal, has become one of the most important personal accounts of the Holocaust. Although repression was widespread, Amsterdam was also a center of resistance. Many citizens participated in underground networks, hiding Jewish families, forging documents, and spreading illegal newspapers. In February 1941, Amsterdam witnessed a rare and courageous act of public protest, the February Strike. Workers across the city went on strike to protest the persecution of Jews, making it one of the only mass protests against anti-Jewish measures in Nazi-occupied Europe. Though the strike was violently suppressed, it remains a powerful symbol of solidarity and moral courage. As the war continued, conditions worsened. Food shortages, bombings, and forced labor took a heavy toll on the population. The final winter of the war, known as the Hunger Winter of 1944-1945, was especially devastating. Thousands of people died from starvation and cold as supply lines collapsed. When Amsterdam was finally liberated in May 1945, the city was physically damaged and emotionally shattered. The Jewish community, once a vital part of the city, had been almost destroyed. The post-war years were a period of grief, rebuilding, and reflection. Amsterdam faced the enormous task of reconstructing its infrastructure while also confronting the moral consequences of occupation and collaboration. Housing shortages were severe, and much of the city required repair. Yet there was also a strong determination to rebuild and move forward.
Government programs and social reforms helped restore stability and improve living conditions. By the late 20th century, Amsterdam transformed itself. The city expanded, modernized its transportation systems, and invested in education and social welfare. At the same time, it made a conscious effort to preserve memory. Monuments, museums, and memorials were established to honor victims and remind future generations of the cost of intolerance and hatred. The Anne Frank House became a place of reflection, visited by millions from around the world. By the late 20th century, Amsterdam had re-emerged as a dynamic, progressive city. The trauma of war strengthened its commitment to human rights, freedom of expression, and social justice. While the scars of occupation remain, they serve as a powerful reminder of the importance of vigilance and compassion. Amsterdam's journey through war, occupation, and recovery is a story of immense suffering, courage, and resilience. It stands as a testament to the city's ability to endure tragedy, learn from the past, and rebuild a future grounded in remembrance, tolerance, and hope.
Modern Amsterdam is the result of centuries of transformation, shaped by trade, culture, conflict, and resilience. Today, it stands as one of the world's most recognizable and influential cities, known for its historic canals, progressive values, and high quality of life. While deeply rooted in its past, modern Amsterdam has successfully adapted to the challenges of globalization, urbanization, and sustainability, creating a unique identity that balances tradition with innovation. One of the most defining features of modern Amsterdam is its commitment to livability and urban planning. The city's historic canal system, originally built for trade and water management, has been preserved and integrated into contemporary life. In 2010, Amsterdam's canal ring was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognizing its cultural and architectural significance. Rather than replacing old structures, the city has focused on careful preservation, allowing history to coexist with modern infrastructure. Amsterdam is globally recognized for its progressive social values. The Netherlands was the first country in the world to legalize same-sex marriage in 2001, and Amsterdam has long been at the center of social reform movements. The city is known for its open attitudes towards freedom of expression, individual rights, and personal choice. Policies on issues such as drug regulation, sex work, and euthanasia are often misunderstood, but they reflect a broader Dutch philosophy of harm reduction, transparency, and social responsibility rather than permissiveness. Diversity plays a major role in Amsterdam's global identity. The city is home to people from over 180 nationalities, making it one of the most multicultural cities in Europe. Immigration from former Dutch colonies, including Indonesia, Suriname, and the Caribbean, as well as from Turkey, Morocco, and other parts of Europe, has enriched Amsterdam's cultural landscape. This diversity is reflected in the city's cuisine, festivals, languages, and everyday life, reinforcing its reputation as an open and inclusive metropolis. Economically, modern Amsterdam is a major international hub. While trade and shipping remain important, the city has successfully transitioned into a knowledge-based economy. Amsterdam is a center for finance, technology, creative industries, and startups. Many global companies have established European headquarters in the city due to its strong infrastructure, skilled workforce, and international outlook. At the same time, Amsterdam's universities and research institutions contribute to innovation in fields like artificial intelligence, sustainability, and digital media. Tourism is another key element of Amsterdam's global presence. Millions of visitors are drawn each year by its museums, historic neighborhoods, and cultural atmosphere. Institutions like the Rijksmuseum, Van Gogh Museum, and Anne Frank House attract international audiences and serve as gateways to understanding Dutch history and values. However, the popularity of tourism has created challenges, including overcrowding and rising housing costs. In response, city authorities have introduced policies to promote sustainable tourism and protect local communities. Environmental sustainability has become a central priority in modern Amsterdam. The city is a global leader in cycling infrastructure, with bicycles outnumbering residents and serving as a primary mode of transportation. Investments in renewable energy, green buildings, and climate adaptation reflect Amsterdam's long-standing relationship with water and nature. As climate change poses new risks, particularly rising sea levels, the city continues to innovate in water management and urban resilience. Culturally, Amsterdam remains a vibrant center of creativity. The city supports music, film, design, and contemporary art, alongside its historic cultural institutions. Neighborhoods like Jordan and NDSM Wharf showcase both traditional charm and experimental creativity. Festivals, public art, and open cultural spaces ensure that creativity remains accessible to residents and visitors alike. Modern Amsterdam's global identity is ultimately defined by balance. It is a city that honors its history while embracing change, promotes freedom while maintaining social responsibility, and welcomes the world while protecting local life. This balance has allowed Amsterdam to remain relevant and influential in a rapidly changing world. Today, Amsterdam stands not only as the capital of the Netherlands, but as a symbol of progressive urban living. Its ability to evolve without losing its character makes it a model for cities worldwide and a living example of how history, diversity, and innovation can come together to shape a truly global city.